Welcome back to the Pistons Jack YouTube channel. On today's episode, we'll react to the Pistons releasing their full preseason schedule. We'll talk about some of the latest free agency buzz in the NBA and as it relates to the Pistons and specifically Malik Beasley. And we'll also finish the episode talking about where Cade Cunningham ranks in the Eastern Conference and why I have an issue with one particular ranking. So let's get to it. Earlier today, the Pistons released their full preseason schedule. A few days ago, over the weekend, a couple of games came out in early October, but we now have the full schedule. As you can see on the right of screen here, the Pistons PR released the 4 preseason games that the Detroit Pistons will be playing in. As you can see, they will play Memphis on October 6th, the Bucks October 9th, on the 14th of October, Cleveland, and then they'll play their one home preseason game against the Wizards on October 16th before presumably the regular season starts. Typically, I feel like the regular season starts pretty much close to exactly a week after that final preseason game. So similar to last year, I would say the Pistons' first regular season game will be on October 23, 24, something like that. But we are officially, at least for me, it's August 6th right now. We are pretty much exactly 2 months away from Pistons basketball returning, which sounds like a long time. And August is going to be a bit of a dry month, as it typically is. But, you know, time moves pretty quick. And the countdown is officially on to Pistons basketball. Training camp kicks off in, I think it's late September, and we'll go through to like the first week of October. That's when Media Day typically is. Media Day is typically in that first week of October. So we have probably another 4 to 5 weeks, I want to say, of where it's really, we're in the doldrums. But look, look, it's nice to have some official dates to look forward to. I know for Pistons fans living in Detroit, they're a bit disappointed that there's only the one home game, but and it looks like it's at Little Caesars. I think in the past couple of years, or at least a couple of times in the past 5 years, the Pistons have played out at Michigan State, but it looks like their only preseason game in Detroit or in Michigan will be at LCA against the Wizards. So as normal, like there's not a lot. Like I think the main thing I'm looking for in preseason is the starting lineup and rotation, but I do think a lot of the starters will only play, you know, a half here or there. I wouldn't be surprised after the first couple of games if we don't see Cade, if we don't see Tobias, even guys like Jalen Duren. But it'll be really exciting to see Jaden Ivey back out there. I posted some footage today of him at his youth camp, dunking, running around. Not full 5-on-5 stuff, but his leg looks fine. He was getting up, dunking the ball, like I said, running around. So that's good to see. Plenty of exciting stuff to see there. I think one thing I'll be keeping my eye on is, as it pertains to the rotation, is Ron Holland in particular, where he plays his minutes. I think we're all starting to think now that he's going to play some backup 4 minutes. And I'll get into the roster in the next segment. But that's a preseason schedule. Comment below if you're going to go to that game in Little Caesars, or maybe you live near Memphis, Milwaukee, or Cleveland, and you're going to go to those games. But obviously, I'll be watching from here in Australia. But very exciting to have some dates to look forward to. And the countdown is officially on for Pistons basketball. Like I said, exactly 2 months away. But let me know what you're looking for in preseason. I think another player is maybe Bobby Klintman. I don't expect him to be part of the rotation, but maybe this is his chance, along with someone like Marcus Sasser and even Dennis Jenkins, to be honest, to maybe carve out some sort of role for themselves consistently. But that's my thoughts on that. Love to hear your thoughts below. Moving on, I wanted to touch on some free agency buzz in general. Earlier today, Shams tweeted out that the Celtics had traded Georges Niang and I think a couple of seconds to the Jazz. They cleared some space, and then they also, with that space they cleared, they signed Chris Boucher, a name that I know a lot of Pistons fans, including myself, have wanted the Pistons to sign to fill some backup 4 minutes, but he is officially off the board. The Toronto Raptors kind of stretch big. So a little bit, I'm not disappointed. I'm not surprised the Pistons. I feel like Detroit could have added him this whole time, but he will be suiting up for the Celtics, which leads me to bring back up Malik Beasley. And obviously, I spoke about this on the subscriber-only stream, but I haven't done a video on this. But Patrick Beverley recently on the Pat Bev podcast said he ran into Malik Beasley in Paris and quote, Pat Bev said, as you can see on the right, I was kind of hesitant. You hot right now, man. You got the feds on you and everything. But he seemed confident, good demeanor, and he said he'll be back on a team next year. So I only bring that up because with someone like Chris Boucher now off the market, and to my knowledge, the Pistons, they have 2 roster spots. I've spoken about this a lot. And I believe that the Pistons, I don't think we're going to see them sign one of these other backup fours like Precious Achiuwa or Trey Lyles. I really don't think. I don't even think we're going to see them sign up a point guard like a Malcolm Brogdon. I think now what I'm starting to believe and have kind of felt this way for the past week, I think they're keeping that. I think they're going to keep a 15th roster spot open no matter what, like they did last season. And take that maybe to the trade deadline. It just gives you some more flexibility. And then I also think with this 14th roster position, I think, so that has to be filled before opening night. But I think they are honestly keeping that free in the hope that Malik potentially, I think they're keeping it free for multiple reasons, but I think a reason is to maybe see if Malik can be cleared and you could easily add him on a vet minimum. And to be honest, like getting Malik Beasley on a vet minimum would be another amazing deal with how well he played last season. You could get into like, oh, well, does he fit now with Robinson, with LeVert, with maybe Ivy coming back, with, Ron needing more minutes. But I think at the end of the day, if you can add Malik Beasley in the situation he's in, where he will be desperate to play for an NBA team to earn the value he made last year, I think you just add a player like that and make it work. But it's interesting. I do think these things take a long time to play out. So I'm still unfortunately for Malik, I do find it still very hard to see him being not only on the Pistons, but an NBA team at least to start the season. Just with, seeing the Terry Rozier thing, like I believe the NBA wrapped up their investigation, but the feds are still investigating him. So it just seems like these processes take a long time and get drawn out. Obviously, Terry Rozier will continue to play for the Heat because he's contracted. Malik obviously doesn't have an NBA contract, which is why he will probably not be playing until this is cleared. So, but I do think for the Pistons, it's like they feel like they obviously have their 9-man rotation set, and they feel like, whilst I think they still need a backup 4, because if you have an injury to Tobias or he misses time, I would be a little bit concerned there, at least while they're healthy. And Tobias has shown to be a player that does stay healthy and can play a lot of minutes and a lot of games. Maybe they're just thinking we're kind of set right now. We don't need to add a player that wants to feature heavily in the rotation. So we'll just sign someone later in September, early October. We'll sign someone just before training camp, and let's just see if Malik miraculously could get cleared. But that's my thoughts on it. Let me know your thoughts. We're speaking about this a bit. I know a lot of fans, for the most part, I think would happily have Malik back if he was cleared. But I have seen some who are against it entirely. But let me know your thoughts. I've said my piece. And let's close out the show now. NBA.com recently wrote an article with the top 10 players in the Eastern Conference. They ranked them. And the rankings were as such. They had Giannis 1, Jalen Brunson 2. I have no issues with that. Donovan Mitchell 3, Paolo Banchero 4, Cade Cunningham number 5, Joel Embiid 6, Mobley 7, Jaylen Brown 8, Karl Anthony Towns 9th, and Trae Young 10th. So for me, entering this upcoming season, I would personally put Cade 3rd. I would have him behind Brunson and Giannis. I just think after I went to 4 of the 6 playoff games, and even if I wasn't there, just watching it on TV, I had to give props to Brunson. I have to put him ahead of Cade right now. And it's more so about Brunson and how he just closed out those games. Every game at LCA, and I was there for all of them. You kind of had this sick feeling, even if the Pistons were up 6 or they're up 8 or they're up double digits, you just knew as soon as it hit the fourth quarter, Brunson was going to start making tough shots, pull up middies, fade away middies, pull up threes, and obviously close the series out with the most deadly pull up 3 of them all. Absolute heartbreaker, but he took that team to the Eastern Conference Finals. I think it's just I have to put him ahead of Cade right now, even if I think Cade will be a better player long term and is, on paper, like with the skill set he has at his size, is a player that a lot more GMs would draft. I think Brunson, just after witnessing that, I have to put him ahead. But where I want to talk is the Paolo over Cade. I can see why they have Donovan Mitchell ahead of Cade. Whilst I would have Cade slightly ahead of Mitchell because I think Cade has more value in the playoffs with his size, his two-way ability, his playmaking. Donovan Mitchell clearly a much better scorer right now. But I think Cade will be better than Donovan Mitchell this season. Paolo and Cade, as you can see here on the right, I don't understand it. I assume, let's just go through some numbers first and I'll give my opinion. Cade Cunningham last season, he gave you 26.6 rebounds, 9 assists, 4.5 turnovers, which was pretty high, but you're also third in the league in assists, so that's kind of what comes with it. He did so on 47% from the field, 36% from three, 85% from the line. Key here, remember these efficiency numbers, because when we go to Paolo, he gave you 25 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 turnovers to 5 assists as well. He had 45%, 32% from three, and only 73% from the line. And then when we look at, because I know a lot of people are like, well, Paolo does a lot. He gets a lot of his stuff in the mid-range. That's why his field goal percentage is a little bit low because he struggles from three. Well, when you look at the 2-point percentages, Cade was slightly shot better from inside the arc. 52% from 2-point land, 51%. Now, I know they're basically the same, but it's like, well, if you're going to tell me Paolo's better inside the 3-point line, he's not. And then if you look at long twos, for those that say, well, Paolo's got a really good midi game, he gets to dribble pull up, it's automatic. Well, he only shot 37% on long twos, which is a pretty bad number. Cade shot 44% on long twos. So, whilst Paolo gets to the line a lot more, he doesn't convert. And the 3-point shooting, whilst 32 to 36 might not seem like a lot, it kind of is. Like, if you're above 35% on volume, that's pretty decent. For Cade, of course, we want to see him get closer to 40, but Paolo was at 32%. So that's just last season alone. I know, like when we look at the accolades, Cade won All-Star, Paolo won All-Star. Cade has the All-NBA nod. Paolo does not have that. Paolo has been to playoffs twice. They took Cleveland to 7 games in a 5-seed versus 4-seed series. They lost. And then last season, they lost to the Celtics in 5 games as an 8-seed. And then Cade obviously last year had his first playoff appearance and took the Knicks to 6 games. So I'm assuming that Paolo's ahead of them because of the playoffs, or maybe because in theory, they're trying to say he's 6'10". I mean, in the blurb here, it says that Paolo is a 6'10" forward who excels everywhere offensively. I actually think he doesn't excel everywhere offensively. Poor free throw shooter, high turnovers, not a good 3-point shooter, takes a lot of mid-range shots, like I just said, doesn't convert them at a great percentage. So whilst I think his game, he kind of reminds me right now of like Carmelo Anthony. A bigger, more strong version of Melo, but a guy whose game, when they have it going, it's absolutely beautiful. Like watching Paolo pull up, knock down threes at that size with his jumper, it's pretty smooth, it's fluid. Of course, I can see why people think that, because he's a great scorer, but I think it's just not that efficient. And like Melo, he was very good at getting his teams to the first round, but they rarely passed. And I think Paolo plays with Franz, he plays with Jalen Suggs, and obviously Cade finally got a good supporting cast around him last season, and we saw how it worked. But I know the Magic had not much shooting, but yeah. And then I just think Cade gives a little bit more defensively than Paolo, but Paolo is a better rebounder and is taller. So I just think Cade should be above Paolo. I really do. I'm biased, but I can see why, if you just watch them in a game go against one another, why someone's going to pick Paolo. But when you zoom out and look at the body of work, I know Paolo has been awesome in the playoffs, particularly that 7-game series against the Cavs, but we just saw Cade take the Eastern Conference finalists to 6 games. And to be honest, I feel like if they have Stu, they win that series, or at least take it to 7. Paolo took a 4-seed Cleveland team who were decent. I'm not going to put them down too much, but it took them to 7, and then they got, they lost in 5 to the Celtics. So, look, for me, it's Cade. I do think it's close, but I just think Cade's a better player right now. More well-rounded player, more efficient, much better playmaker. And then I think defensively, they both aren't, great. But I think Cade, a little bit better, weak side rim protector, that kind of stuff. But that's going to do it for today's episode. Let me know your thoughts. Who's better? A lot of people probably think I'm just being incredibly biased, but I think Cade should be above Paolo. Where do you have Cade ranked in the East? Please let me know. Let me know your thoughts on anything else. But until next time, as always, go Pistons.